Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. In chapter 12 of his work on interpretation, Aristotle is going to shift focus to looking at propositions that are going to involve what in the present we might call modal operators or terms. And what do we have in mind when we use this technical term? Well, we're talking about things like possibility, contingency, impossibility, and necessity. And philosophers have been quite interested in how these actually work together for a long time. And this is one of the first texts in which these ideas are being analyzed in some sort of thorough way. And Aristotle's going to say, quite understandably, that difficulties arise, aporia, literally, not being able to figure out your way through things. And so if we're careless or not very thoughtful in how we work with these terms and then try to figure out, which is something he's very interested in, what follows from the use of these terms, what is implied by it, or what the genuine contradictories are to propositions that are using these terms, we're going to get ourselves into mistakes, errors, some bad lines of reasoning that we could call sophisms may rely upon these as well. And he's interested in, as he is for most of the on interpretation, affirmations and denials, right? Kataphasis and apophasis in the singular that use these kinds of terms. So we should spend a little bit of time talking about what Greek terms he actually uses rather than just simply going with the contemporary English terms. Two of them are pretty close to each other, perhaps synonyms, as we go further into the chapter and we see how he's set out implications of propositions of other propositions. It seems like there's a good case to be made for that. So we have the possible or the not possible, the dunaton and me dunaton. Later on, he's going to have a discussion not just of possibility, but of potentiality. Dunamis is the Greek term for that. So dunaton is coming from that, and it means what can be or what is possible. And then we have something pretty similar to it. The contingent is how it's being translated in English, and literally it means the endekhomenon, which means it admits of, it welcomes in, it accepts, and then the me endekhomenon, that which does not accept that. And you say, well, what's the difference between that and possibility? If there is a distinction there, there's not a lot of daylight between them, as we often say. So those are two important terms. Then he talks about the impossible, adunaton, and notice that this is just using a prefix, sort of like im is in English. A means not, dunaton, that which is not possible, that which can't be the case, right? And then the necessary, the anankhaion, and we've already looked at necessity earlier in this work. Actually, we also looked at what's possible, talking about future contingents and whether they're necessary or merely possible. So these are the terms that he's using through this, and he's saying you can have affirmations or denials of these, right? So you can say something is possible, or you can say something is not possible. And, maybe that's the same thing, as we're going to see later on, as saying it's actually impossible. If you're saying that it is impossible, or if you're saying that it's not possible for it not to be the case, right? Maybe that's necessary, and we could go on from that. But what we're really interested in here is how do these line up with each other? So later on in this, after he gives you a few examples of things that don't involve modal terms, he's going to say that what we want to do is determine for propositions what is the actual negation, the apophasis, because we could go wrong with that. So he gives you some examples that are useful to look at. He says what we want are the ones that are actually contradictory to each other, endekhomenon. So if the affirmation is true, the negation of it, the contradictory negation, must be false. Or if the affirmation is true, then the negation is false, then the negation must be true. So we're looking at sort of the strictest sort of opposition there. So he gives you some examples. It is possible, or it's also translated as it may be, right? We could say it may not be would be the opposite of that. So it makes a difference in English whether we translate it is possible or it may be. So then we can say that's not actually necessarily false if this other one is true. So what can we say would be the contradiction? It is not possible, or it cannot be. If one of those is right, the other one has to be wrong. So you see we have to make a decision here between two possible negations, two possible contradictories. It may not be, dunaton may anai. So it's possibly the case that this won't happen. If any sort of physical fact, putting aside that we think of the laws of nature hold, if I were to drop this book, and it's possible we could conceive of it that it could float in the air, right? So, but we're not going to actually say that's the case. It may not be the case that every time I drop the book, it falls to the ground. That's just an example there. We don't have to go too far into that. What would be the correct contradiction of that? It cannot not be. Now, that's an interesting one, right? Because as Aristotle is going to point out later on, that's the same thing as to say it's necessary, right? So you could actually get some of these things lining up with each other as contradictories to each other. What about things that have to do with impossibility and necessity? He says, it is necessary that something be. What would be the opposite of that? Would it be saying it's necessary that it not be? Aristotle says, no, that's not the right way to go with this. What we really want is it is not necessary that it be. So, if you want to think about this in terms of like ordering within the proposition, particularly in English, although this is also reflected in the Greek as well, when we're contradicting possibility or necessity, we want the contradiction, the term that's doing the contradiction, to be connected with the modal operator, not with the case that we're predicating that of, that we're saying this is necessary, this is possible, this is contingent, this is impossible. So, similarly, it is impossible that it should be. We don't want to say, well, it's impossible that it should not be, it's contradictory or it's opposite. We want to say it is not impossible that it should be. And here, we're getting to longer and longer strings. Chains may be a little bit difficult to pose these oppositions in your head. It can often be quite useful to put them on a chalkboard, write them down on paper as you're following along with this portion of the text. But that's what Aristotle is really keen to bring out when it comes to these propositions that involve these sorts of modal terms. How do we determine what the real or genuine contradiction is and avoid making the wrong sort of contradiction, which then could get us into problems? He's giving us some examples, and he's giving us, you could say, some guidelines for this. And a little bit later in the work, he's going to say the following pairs must be reckoned as contradictory pairs to each other. It may be, it cannot be, or it's possible, it's not possible, right? It's contingent, it is not contingent. It's impossible, it's not impossible. It's necessary, it's not necessary. And then he adds to it, it is true and it is false. Now notice it's not true rather than it's false. So why is he bringing truth and falsity in there? Well, because with contradictories, one of them has to be true and one of them has to be false. So this is the way his approach is going to articulate these very important and interesting, but often kind of slippery modal terms having to do with possibility, impossibility, and necessity.